mobile and tablet.
Welcome back to Sky News Business to Trading Day. Well, the annual cost of cybercrime in Australia and New Zealand is said to be about $1.6 billion, with some suggesting cybercrime will be the next big thing to hit business. Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand is exploring ways the industry can prepare for the increasing challenge that cybercrime poses. And today launched a leadership series which brings further attention to the issue. Rob Ward is Head of Leadership and Advocacy at CANZS and joins us now from the Melbourne studio. Rob Ward, thank you very much for your time this afternoon on the channel. It's interesting, yes, cybersecurity. I mean, I'm thinking of geopolitical shocks around the world, major health alerts with things like Ebola, huge economic shifts that are happening across the globe as well. And yet, cybercrime, you're saying, is the big thing for business. How do you paint the picture or set out the threat of cybercrime?
Well, Brooke, you just did that for me in terms of Ebola and other global shocks. And some would say that to the financial markets and to the markets generally, that a major cyber attack could be the next global shock. So the challenge for us, for business generally, worldwide, and also for governments, for all of us as individuals, is to avoid that happening and be prepared for such a shock.
What were you kind of imagining when we think of a cyber shock that would, that would affect the world, I suppose, and global businesses?
Closing down the banking system, turning off ATMs, stopping electricity, stopping water services generally, stopping navigation systems could be major. And, we've seen attacks and hacks double in the last 12 months. You mentioned the $2 billion to Australia and New Zealand. I think globally $133 billion. So this is a very real business issue. I don't know, have you met anybody yet who hasn't had their own machine hacked?
Yeah.
And these guys are smart. They used to run in the front door of a bank. Now they're sitting somewhere in some part of the world trying to get, and they're really nasty, but they're smart people. Yeah.
So you've hosted a panel discussion. Personally, you're involved in that today to talk about how to tackle the threat. But just tell us who was involved in that panel discussion, the threads that you were bringing together in that.
I did. It was a great panel and a great dialogue. I think we had the mix really great. We had Greg Medcraft as chairman of ASIC, and he's been championing this globally on his role on the Global Financial Stability Board. We had Scott Mellis from the Australian Federal Police, and he's involved full-time for 20 years now on cybercrime. And George Thanos from Deloitte, who he's a consultant, and he brought a business angle. And there was three themes that really came out of the discussion. One, that this is really a business issue for the boards, and I mentioned the $133 billion. It's not a technology issue. Certainly technology is the way the threat is delivered, but really it's a business issue. I'll give you an example. You wouldn't want the CFO, or be the CFO, who goes into the chairman or the CEO and says, our customer database has been encrypted. And that's happened, and there's been a great increase in number of ransoms paid. So that's issue number one, theme. Theme number two is really getting Australian public policy on this. Who owns the issue of cybercrime? Is it Attorney Generals? Is it Defence? Greg's taken it on because of the impact of financial markets. And the third theme is to get the point, it's not an IT issue, it's a business issue.
Yeah, on the regulator side of things, I guess people feel that often the regulators are a bit behind the eight ball. They're not as nimble as the cyber threats, the people behind the cyber threats themselves. What was Greg Medcraft saying about the role of regulators in managing the threat?
Well, the challenge he was putting to everyone there, and it's a very good challenge, is resilience. Are organisations resilient in the way they prepare for the future cyber attacks, not what's happened in the past, because the bad guys are trying to get ahead of us. So rather than having an ad hoc approach, what he is promoting is very much having, and the SEC have done it recently, don't be ad hoc, but have an adaptive plan that is constantly changing to the cyber attacks as they arise. A lot of corporates don't want to talk about this issue because it's actually quite a nasty thing if you start talking about we have a big exposure and you're a bank. The serious, and I know the serious banks in Australia have this as their number one or two issue, so they're taking it seriously.
So was anything kind of surprising or quite controversial to come out of that panel discussion today? Anything that caused disagreement or, something that maybe people hadn't thought of before? Or
Well, there was a number of issues about how do you actually do something about it. And Greg was onto the case. You know, if you look at APRA or what nudge do regulators or does business give about being prepared for this? For example, does the regulator of financial institutions, APRA, do they say to organisations, rather than just their compliance with Basel III committee and all the ratios, do they say, show me that you're protected from major attacks to your privacy of your customers and the resilience of your business? Now, that's a bit scary because if some of our major corporates are not ready, they may not meet that test.
It's so great to chat to you, Rob Ward. Thank you very much. It's really interesting. As you said, businesses certainly understanding and perhaps more so in the future kind of getting to grips with the challenges of that whole issue. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Brooke.
Rob Ward, their Head of Leadership and Advocacy at CANS, Chartered Accountants Australia and New Zealand. Do stick with us.